Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kirk Conover has left the building. Governor Christie should be arriving momentarily. He had additional interviews prior to ours, national interviews. And let me take this opportunity before the governor arrives. I can do a little sort of housekeeping. The Supreme Court yesterday, what they did, they ruled in favor of New Jersey in the case that was known as Christie versus the NCAA. And what the Supreme Court did, they struck down a 25-year-old federal law, and we were here all during it. My very good friend Chuck Hytine and I, one of the only disagreements that we've ever had was when he would not post the sports betting issue. It was terrible. And he knew I was saying it about him and to him when he would come on. He knew. He'd say, Harry, I'm going to come on and take a beating because not this Christie, a different Christie. They had this insane, weirdo, political, Svengali interpretation that putting that question on the ballot, which was surely going to pass, that was going to defeat Christie Whitman, which I reject that on its face. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, my very good friend, our former governor, and the one person that we have to thank that 25 years later, when everyone said, stop it, it's over, we lost, we had 2 years to get it done, we couldn't get our heads out of our you-know-what, it's not going to happen, $8 million, you might as well throw it out, the fifth floor and let it go into the street. Well, lo and behold, the case known as Christie versus the NCAA, and I think the governor will remember this in what I called our exit interview together. I congratulated him then for the effort, and I said that sometime before June we will get the word, and I always believed that they were going to win. What a day. Must be a great feeling for Governor Christie, who joins us now. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Harry. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. Pinch me. I mean, I'm an Atlantic City boy, and we're going to have sports betting, and we have you to thank for it.
Well, listen, winning beats losing. And, you chronicled it really well in your introduction. I mean, we lost 7 times in court before yesterday, and I just continue to believe in the principle that a state and its people should have the right to determine what happens inside their state borders on an issue like this, especially in a place like New Jersey that had already been committed for 40 years to casino gambling in Atlantic City. And so, yesterday was very gratifying. And to have the opinion written by a Jersey boy, by Justice Sam Alito, when I saw that, when the opinion came out over the wire, and saw that it was Justice Alito who wrote it, that gave me an even bigger smile.
Let's play a game of, because you're really good at this, of forecasting, because while we have a great victory here, the way that the Supreme Court decided this, and I think they were right about how they did it. They said that Congress can regulate sports gambling directly, but if they elect not to do so, each state is free to act on its own. Do you agree with me that Congress, who never wanted it to begin with, there are a lot of members, as you know, people like Orrin Hatch, I know he's leaving, but people like that, they were against this. Bill Bradley, when he was there, they hate the idea of sports gambling. So I would predict that they will regulate it. What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, I don't know what's going to happen because you're in an election year now, Harry. They don't have a whole lot of time left to do things this year. And whether this is going to be a top priority for them or not, with all the other things they have going on in this country, I would suggest it shouldn't be because the states can do this. Let's face it, the states do it on casino gaming right now. Set their own regulations, set their own rules, and all the rest. We do it in New Jersey, and they do it in dozens of other states now, as you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a need for it. I think the states have to go and show that they're going to act responsibly. I think the reason, if the federal government gets involved, the only reason will be it's because the leagues who lost this fight after 7 years are going to want the federal government to give them something that the states might not. I know that Senate President Sweeney has already told the leagues when they've asked for a fee for a cut of the action, He said, I'll pay you the same thing Nevada's been paying you all these years, which is nothing. And I think the Senate president's right on this one. For New Jersey's purposes, purely, other states can make their own judgments, but we're the ones who had to pay the $8 million, put up with the years of legal fights, and the leagues are the ones who caused that. They could have sat down, and I've said this many times on your air, I would have been happy to sit down with the NFL, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, the NHL, and the NCAA to negotiate a settlement of this, and we could have been getting this revenue for years now. And it could have been helping Atlantic City at a time when Atlantic City was really down in the dumps. Now, because of all the work we put in over the last number of years, Atlantic City's doing great and getting better every day. And this is only going to make it even better. So it's a great day, and I really am hopeful Congress will stay out of it and that they'll let the states do their work here, since it was the states that ultimately fought this to get this victory.
Governor Christie, as you know, Monmouth Park and others, casinos would be ready pretty quickly to just do this. When you get a decision like this and you win, but it's a little bit, I don't want to say it's murky because it really isn't. It was, I think, a pretty unambiguous decision. But when you don't know exactly how to roll it out, does somebody just have to go and do it and then see what happens? Or how do you, if you were still governor, what would you be saying people should do right now?
Well, what I would say is we already have the framework in place for them to be able to begin to take bets. And so Monmouth Park, for instance, has already built out their sports book with William Hill from Great Britain. They're ready to go. And listen, the folks at Dennis Drazen and others at Monmouth Park have always told me that they would be ready in a matter of 2 weeks to take bets from the date of the decision. So I think they should do that. Now, that's what I would tell them to do. And then, our state legislature and our governor are going to have to pass an additional piece of legislation about issues like tax rate and other things, but that, online gaming, all those different questions that they'll have to resolve. But there's no reason why folks at Monmouth Park shouldn't, on Memorial Day weekend, be taking bets on the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, and whatever baseball games folks want to bet on that weekend. There's no reason for them not to be doing that. I think they should start doing that so New Jersey can get itself in this game before anybody else, help our racetracks, and then as our casinos and everyone else get online, we know how to do this, Harry. We've been doing this in Atlantic City, as you know, as well or better than anybody for 40 years in terms of gaming, and we'll be able to figure this out as well.
Governor, because you have a legal background as well, it's legal right now to do what you're saying. Congress hasn't taken any position at this point, so these entities, a casino could start. Monmouth Park says they're going to start in 2 weeks unless somebody tells them they can't, because they want to respect if someone says, don't do it, please wait, we're going to do this and that. So it is legal right now to do it, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah, there's no prohibition any longer on this in New Jersey. Excuse me, New Jersey has already passed a law which permits this in our casinos, our racetracks, and our former racetracks. So, for instance, Cherry Hill, the former racetrack there, if they want to open up a sports gaming place under the law, they can. So that's already happened. Now, there's other decisions that the state is going to need to make in order to be able to get, fully done here. Issues of online gaming, and are you going to allow our current online gaming system to include sports gambling? And if you do, how does that work in the software and all the rest of it? But we already have an infrastructure on that, Harry, so I don't think it'll be hard. I know that Senate President Sweeney is really focused on getting a good piece of legislation to the governor's desk as quickly as possible before they leave at the end of June. But I don't see if I were governor today, I would say to Monmouth Park, start taking the bets, keep track of how much you're making, and you can pay us your taxes after we pass the tax legislation at the end of June.
That's a good idea. Now, of course, some would say, who would be the oversight? I mean, we have to trust the House. But I like what you're saying, because anything that's new, when resorts first opened up 40 years ago, as you know, they were sweeping the money off the floor in the count room with brooms. I mean, so when you're first starting out, you have to get started at some point. And then, of course, this will evolve with state legislation that will be taking place and executive action, as you would do if you were still governor. For those joining us, we're at 54 minutes past the hour with our good friend, former New Jersey, I hate to say that, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. And the Supreme Court of the United States yesterday ruled in favor of New Jersey in the case known as Chris Christie versus NCAA. And if I could get personal for a moment, because this to me is legacy stuff, how do you feel? Because I know at the time people were saying, "Oh my God, Chris Christie's throwing $8 million into the inferno to burn it up." This wasn't smooth sailing where it was like people commending you for doing this. There was some heat. I remember it at the time, but you did the right thing. I believe the Third Circuit Court of Appeals was overturnable, if you will, and the Supreme Court did it. How do you feel with this accomplishment?
Well, listen, I feel great that we were vindicated, and that the fight that we put forward by me and my attorneys general were justified by the Supreme Court. But you don't worry about legacy, Harry. You know me. I mean, listen, I think if you're a governor who's making decisions based upon what you think your legacy is going to be, you're not worth sitting in that chair. Because in the short term, legacy is written by bitter, angry, small, liberal editorial page writers. And you can't worry about that, especially if you're a conservative Republican in a blue state. So in the end, I'm sure that those folks won't give any credit for this either, because that's just the way they are. And I don't care, because what I did care about then and always was that the people of New Jersey wanted this, and they voted overwhelmingly for it. And when that happens and you're the governor, and you believe in the principle that they're putting forward, which is states should be able to make this determination, then you know what? As a governor, you stand up for states' rights, you stand up for your people. So I feel good about it. But I will tell you, Harry, during the whole time I was doing it, I felt good about it. And let's face it, we got the best lawyer in America to go before the United States Supreme Court, and that's Ted Olson. Ted Olson got a President of the United States elected, and he's now in part responsible for getting sports gambling both in New Jersey and around the country.
Governor, well said. And now that it's over, was this a long shot, or is this the result you expected?
Both. It's always a long shot to get your case taken by the Supreme Court. They only take 50 or 60 cases a year of the thousands of requests that they get. And so it's always a long shot to get it. Once they accepted the case, then to me it turned from a long shot to a much better bet, because I really believed we had the better part of the argument. But, you never know, Harry, can you get 4 justices out of the 9 to say the case is worth taking, given all the competition for their attention? So I think that was really that's the period when it was a long shot, was going to the Supreme Court at all. But once they took it, I remember saying to Ted Olson when we met for the first time after they granted certiorari and were going to take the case, I sat with him in his office in New York, and I said, Ted, I'm predicting we're going to win this one. And he had a little smile on his face, and he said to me, I don't make predictions, but I feel pretty good.
I love
it.
I love it.
We both felt pretty good once they took it, that we were going to win. And I know from talking to folks over at the leagues that they were nervous once the court took it.
It's a great day for our state. Obviously, it's a great day for the city of Atlantic City in particular, and, of course, the racetracks that are going to enjoy this. And you did the heavy lift for 25 or 26 other states. Nevada already had, and a few others. So you did the lift for all these other, several dozen states, but it was worth it. And what do you think this means to Atlantic City as a destination resort and anywhere else in New Jersey that will now, whether it's the horse race season or NBA playoffs that we're seeing now, or NCAA, or anything, Major League Baseball, major fights, what do you think this means?
Well, and listen, first for Atlantic City, Harry, it means a great deal because it adds another item to the menu of great attractions in Atlantic City. We already have the Steel Pier and the great boardwalk. We have all the great shops that are there. We have, the largest number of casinos in that size space of any place, in the country. And now we have sports gambling available to folks. And as you know, Atlantic City is on the upswing. And it's been on the upswing for the last few years as we took the really difficult steps that needed to be taken to get the city and the county back in shape and in order and doing what they were supposed to be doing, and dealing with the consolidation in the casino industry that happened and that needed to happen because of the competition from all around the country. And so, I feel like it's going to be huge for Atlantic City. For our horse tracks, it's going to be very important too, because as we know, horse racing has been an industry that's faced challenges, and because it's faced those challenges, they need another way to get people into the tracks that will expose them to horse racing and remind them how much they like it, but also to get them in there to bet on sports. So everybody's going to win in this regard, and I'm glad, and I really hope that Governor Murphy and the legislature will allow Monmouth Park to go forward as quickly as possible. Don't wait for additional legislation. There's no need to wait for additional legislation. And by the way, I want to correct one thing that you said before. We don't have to count on trusting Monmouth Park. The DGE, the Division of Gaming Enforcement, has the authority to oversee what goes on there based on the legislation that's in place right now. Some specifics of it they're going to have to work on, but they're not going to allow it to be the Wild Wild West.
So the oversight is already there in place.
Yes, and you have a professional gaming operation, William Hill from Great Britain, that runs a huge gaming operation in Great Britain and in Europe, who are going to be Monmouth Park's partners, who know how to do this. And so we were preparing for this, Harry. We were always preparing to win and to want to get New Jersey out of the box first, because I think it's really important. People develop brand loyalty, and if they get used to and they like going to our casinos and betting on sports, using a potential online product to bet on sports that's a New Jersey product, then that's going to be even better for us. And so I hope they let it go forward as quickly as possible, and I think they will. We haven't fought this long to then, stand on niceties and take a back seat.
No reason to wait.
Nope.
When you win, you get to play, and then once one starts, then I think it inspires confidence. Hey, this is up. It's running. Let's go. And I think everybody that's legal and able to participate will want to do so as quickly as possible. And I'm sure casinos have been preparing. I know resorts and others have been preparing for the space that they will use. So this is a great day. It is a great victory. Would you consider it one of the greatest victories of your administration?
Yeah, I would, because of how long it took and how much people doubted us. And listen, Harry, in the end, that's what leadership is all about. Leadership is not about when it's easy. It's about when it's hard. And you get criticized as a governmental leader if you do things that are bold. The thing that I'm proudest of our administration about was that we swung for the fences every day. We tried to get big things done for New Jersey. We didn't play small ball. And when you do that, there's some people you're going to upset. There's some people that you're going to anger, and it's going to create controversy. But why do this job if you're going to do it for small reasons? And I never ever felt like that was my role or my task, or why people elected me twice in this state. And so this was a big risk. It was a big gamble, so to speak. But I really felt it was going to be worth it, and I felt like we stood on solid legal ground. And, I'm sure it makes my dad, who just recently turned 85, really proud of the fact that he helped to pay for that law education, because his son turned out to be a good lawyer on this one, too, and in addition to being a good governor. So I'm really proud of it. It is one of our biggest accomplishments, and it's something that I think everybody in New Jersey should remember. The right decisions are always not the ones that are the most popular at the moment. And you got to look for leaders who are willing to take that risk and not always just put their finger in the air to see which way the political wind is blowing.
Governor, before you run, how has the transition been after 8 years as governor? Obviously, and we know you're doing a great job as a national ABC News political commentator. How has the transition been for you?
Well, I can tell you, Harry, that my popularity is soaring at home. My approval ratings at home are through the roof. Mary Pat is enjoying having me not feeling the pressure of the governorship each and every day, and the obligations that come along with that in terms of the time that it took away from her and from our children. And so for, Andrew and Sarah and Patrick and Bridget, they're happy to have their dad available to them much more. The ABC stuff has been wonderful, and I love ABC, and they've given me a great opportunity to talk about, incredible issues that are going on every day on the national scene. And I'm doing a lot of other things. I'm serving on boards and, doing some paid public speaking and, helping folks in different issues, still involved in the opioid issue as well. And so there's a lot to fill my time, and my family's happy to have me around, and I'm enjoying being a New Jersey citizen. And, so for me, the transition so far has gone really well. That's not to say I don't miss being governor. I loved being governor for 8 years, and there's certainly miss being in the middle of all the argument and discussion and resolution of big issues and big problems for New Jersey. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, I don't miss it at all. Of course I miss it. For me, 7 years as U.S. attorney followed by 8 years as governor was an incredible opportunity, something no one in the state's ever done before in our history, to have 16 consecutive years of being either U.S. attorney, a candidate for governor, or the governor. Never happened in our 200-plus year history. And so I miss that, but the transition is going great. I'm enjoying my life as a private citizen, and I'm looking forward to, keeping an eye on what happens in the state. But I'm also keeping my word, as you know. I'm not somebody who's going to sit around and talk to local media and critique everything that's going on in the state that I agree with and that I don't agree with. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think it's helpful to the people of the state. I don't think it's helpful to our governor, who I hope succeeds, and to our legislature, where I have many friends. And so I'm going to try to continue to stay in the background on those things, at least for a while, and talk about the national issues that ABC has hired me to talk about, and continue to spend, I hope, a really good summer betting on sports in Atlantic City and spending some time at the shore.
I love it. I know you got to go in a second. I do want to say congratulations, though, because over 5 months ago, you said what kind of ex-governor, what kind of former governor you would be, that everything you just said, you've kept your word for 5 months. A lot of people say stuff if raises are given. Oh, my gosh, undoing all the good we did. Pension stuff, all this. You're not doing any of that. I give you a lot of credit for that. I really do. In terms of one national item, I often say about you, if your ears are ever burning, that if my friend Governor Christie would have been a part of this administration, Attorney General, or whatever the case would have been, this whole Russia special counsel should not even have ever happened. Look at the disaster that this has been. Governor Christie, do you believe that is nearing the end, or is this thing going to go on and on and on?
Harry, I don't think there's any way of knowing. One of the things that I used to say when I was U.S. attorney was one of the best parts of the job was only I knew what I knew, and that certainly applies to Bob Mueller. And only he knows what he knows about where this is headed and how long it's going to take to complete it. You know that I was sounding the warning bells as governor, that a special prosecutor is a very dangerous thing.
Yep.
Because they're untethered. They often have unlimited budgets. In the way this Justice Department has decided to manage Bob Mueller, there's very little restrictions on him. And so, always thought this was a dangerous thing to do. It's been done, though, and so now Bob Mueller needs to be, permitted to finish the job. And so, I don't know whether we're close to the end, Harry. I know we're closer to the end than we were in the beginning. I'm confident of that. But whether this is going to, finish out, because remember, he's not going to be able to do anything at all, come, September 1st. Because the Justice Department has a rule that Jim Comey broke blatantly, but that has been honored by everybody else other than Jim Comey in the Justice Department, which is within 60 days of a general election, you don't get yourself involved in any prosecutorial actions. And so, I think he's really got to, between now and the end of August, to get this done. If he doesn't, he's probably then going to take a public break for September and October until after the midterms, and then get back to work after that if he doesn't have it done. So I don't think we really know. And on your other point about me keeping my word on this, believe me, there have been moments it's not been easy. Not only some of the things that you mentioned, but, quite frankly, Harry, some of the loudmouths in your area of the state, who quite frankly just absolutely lie about what's going on in Atlantic City and what needs to be done for Atlantic City, what was promised by certain elected officials to me about what they'd be willing to do in Atlantic City if we were to take aggressive steps. These guys, and women down there who've been doing a lot of talking, they are self-interested politicians who, are strangers to the truth. So it's been very hard for me to sit by and watch some of those comments be made. But I'm going to continue to because, I had my chance for 8 years to do what I thought I needed to do. And they'll be judged up or down based upon the veracity of their statements and whether or not they're just always looking to sweep another dollar off the table for their own benefit. And those kind of folks, that's never who I was, and it's never who I will be. So we'll continue to follow that pattern. And if there comes a time where I think, it's an appropriate passage of time for me to start to comment on local issues, I'll make that determination. But that may never come. But if it does, I'll be sure to let everybody know. But I'm certainly not going to do it anytime soon.
Governor Christie, let me thank you for a variety of reasons. Number one, I really cherish our relationship, your loyalty to me. I hope you felt my loyalty back to you all throughout these years that we've known each other. From the blue fleece to the orange sweater in Jerry Jones's owner's box, the morning after, you were always here on the air with us. And not only do I never take that for granted, sometimes I can't believe it, actually. And I just want to thank you for the access that you've given me. And obviously, it's been very good for me, for my career. And I want to let you know publicly, I privately have said this to you, but publicly, tell you how much it means to me.
Well, Harry, you're very welcome. And listen, you're the mayor of the morning. When you want to communicate with the people in South Jersey, the best place to go is the Harry Hurley Show. And you always gave me a forum to be able to say my piece. You asked the tough questions that needed to be asked, but you gave me the time to answer them and answer them completely and not play the gotcha game. So the reason you're so successful, the reason you have such a loyal following in the state and in the region is because you give people a fair opportunity to make their piece, say what they need to say. And you've always done that for me. And so our relationship has been based upon mutual respect over the course of the last 16 years that I've been fortunate enough to be able to come occasionally on this program when there have been important issues of law and order and public policy to talk about. And so thank you for that. Thank you for giving me that forum, and especially on a morning like this morning. It's great to talk about New Jersey winning and New Jersey being in the forefront in the country and leading. That's what I tried to do for 8 years, was to make not New Jersey just a place inside our own state where we knew what was going on, but my 8 years as governor, everybody knew New Jersey was a leader. Everybody knew who New Jersey's governor was and the things that we were doing here. And I think it brought a lot of pride to the state during that period of time. And so I'm really proud of our relationship and how it's contributed to the public dialogue. And you're a great New Jerseyan on top of being a really great radio host. You love this state and you care about it, and you're not like these people who have abandoned it over time. And so I appreciate you being a great part of the everyday life of the people of this state. The people who are in their cars driving to work right now, you know what they're saying? Shut up, Christie. We want to hear more Harry Hurley because we love him, and so do I.
I doubt that, but thank you for these words. They mean more to me than I could even say, and congratulations to you, Governor Chris Christie, because this case will always bear your name, Chris Christie versus NCAA, and you came out on top. Thank you, Mr. Hurley. Great to talk to you. Please tell Mrs. Hurley that I send my best. Thank you, Governor. Best to you and your family. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Till we meet again. Thank you, sir. 14 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut standing by. He's next.